Welcome back if you saw our last presentation, but if you're not, if you didn't see the last one, then welcome to the FSElite Theater. So we have another presentation, this time from the team at Explain. So what we'll do is exactly the same. They're going to give a nice presentation, and then hopefully we'll have some time for any questions at the end. But in the meantime, please put your hands together for Thompson and Philip from the Explain team.
Hey, how's it going? Oh, that's loud. All right. Hey, my name's Thompson. I'm from the Explain team, and we're really happy to be back in the Netherlands for FS Weekend. Nice to have this back on the calendar. If you haven't seen our stand already, we're over next to Navigraph, actually, in the room right on the other side of that wall. So we'd love to have you drop by and fly a little bit. But today, what I really want to talk about is Explain 12.1. This is our a really major release that we've been working on for the last few months, and we're getting pretty close to a public beta, so I figured we should talk about it some. So the main focus of 12.1 has been our graphics. We've spent a lot of time refining the lighting model in Explain, and also some features that weren't quite there yet in previous releases. Stuff like cloud shadows on the water are coming in 12.1. That's really fun. It's a great immersion, especially when you're flying low over a lake or in a seaplane. We have bloom lighting effects, which affect how very bright light emitters react to the camera in Explain. If you look behind you, the two lights on the side here are a pretty good example of what bloom looks like. It's very bright, and it kind of bleeds out from the bulbs themselves. So you'll see some screenshots of that in just a minute. We also have nice softer shadows. For a long time, the shadows have kind of been, 1 pixel at a time, and that isn't the most immersive effect that we could imagine. We also have improved anti-aliasing. This is one step towards a larger anti-aliasing project that we're working on. So this will provide some help, but we also have more in the pipeline for that. An interesting thing about performance in Explain 12 is that in the past, we've had people whose graphics cards were the big limiter of their performance, and now that's swapped. So most people are CPU bound in Explain 12. So one thing that we're doing currently is adding more multi-core support, and the first step of that is a new modern collector. A collector is the piece of code that decides what needs to be rendered. And this is a technical first step to enhance CPU performance. We have a new screenshot mode that allows you to use Explain for your beautiful Discord screenshots. You can add stuff like depth of field to your screenshots, adjust the exposure in real time, and other stuff like that. We have some examples coming up. And the other main graphics thing is improved water turbidity. So right now, when you go into Explain and you go next to our aircraft carrier, for example, you can see the very bottom of the hull, which is cool because, it is modeled and it's beautiful, but it's not exactly realistic. So that's also fixed. Let's see some screenshots. You can see that the full look and feel of Explain is a little bit refined in this version, and in our opinion, a lot closer to reality. This is a good example of depth of field. So this was taken within our screenshot mode. So you can see the G1000, the PFD is nice and crisp. That's kind of the subject of the photo. And then as you get over to the other side of the cockpit, it's a bit more out of focus and pretty. This is an example of the improved water rendering in Explain 12.1. This is actually with Ortho for XP. We've done a lot of work to make their new packages compatible with Explain 12, so you don't run into the same issues as the old V11 packs, where you couldn't really land on the water and enjoy the full feature set. Here's some of that bloom lighting that I was talking about. You can tell that the very bright emitters are kind of spilling out from just the bulb itself. That also happens with the sun in a lot of cases, so that will be a cool feature to experience. And of course, here's another airliners.com style photo made with our screenshot tool. So the background is blurred and just the aircraft is in focus. Next up is one of my favorite additions to 12.1. We have some new particle effects that are coming into the sim, some of which are refinements on stuff we've already been doing, and some are all new. So we have sparks from pavement collisions. So if you try to land without a gear, now you have a visual representation that might not be a very good idea. We have ground spray from aircraft wheels and engines. So when you land on a nice wet runway, perhaps in Amsterdam, you'll see that there's accumulation on the ground there. That looks very nice. The other thing is brown and whiteouts in powered lift aircraft. This is something that was new to me. I'm not a helicopter pilot, but seeing some of the training scenarios that this enables has really shown me it's important. I have a quick video on that for you guys. So this was a real life video that we took a few days ago in Burlington, Vermont after a snowfall, and it's an example of a whiteout. So you can see as the helicopter comes in for a landing, it's kicking up all this spray and blinding the pilot as a result. So this is a great feature that was actually first introduced in our X-Plane Professional version that will enhance the experience. We also do this for dust. So if you're landing off airport in a powered lift aircraft, you can expect to get some brownout effect as well. And of course, the sparks on a landing gear failure. And an example of how the screenshot tool. I'm not sure if they were playing GTA before this, but it wouldn't surprise me. On the weather side, we have a new real weather server. The provider that we get our real weather data from had some reorganization in the last couple of months that caused some outages. So all of that should be resolved now. We're also bringing better blending to the clouds in real weather. In the past, they've been kind of blocky and the transitions haven't been very smooth. So Ben, our main graphics dev, has spent a long time on that. And we also have less Minecraft clouds in general. So that's always a win. And here's Philip to talk about the aircraft systems a bit more.
Right. Thank you. So I don't get to see a lot of particle effects if I'm doing my job right, because I work as a flight instructor and hopefully my students all have learned to put the gear down so I don't see the sparks flying. So what I've done in 12.1, I basically added a few things that I keep telling my students. For example, well, on the G1000, roll the cursor down to the airport you're going to, press enter to bring up the waypoint page with the weather report. Didn't work before in X-Plane 12. I added that so you get the real downloaded weather. I added the data link weather over ADS-B, so you get all the winds aloft for strategic planning, which altitude should I be at to get the most ground speed out of it. I added the satellite page so you can check for WAS coverage or run the rain prediction if your airplane doesn't have WAS. So basically, well, a lot of technical details, but something that I need my students to know to pass their instrument rating. So I added to X-Plane 12.1 what my students need to know to pass their instrument rating. We have quite a few additions on the SDK side for developers who want to build on top of our existing instruments. So they add stuff to our instruments that we don't have, and we have an API for that now and more data refs for the developers so they can really build more stuff. The ST360 stuff, it's in X-Plane 12.1, but we don't have an aircraft yet. An aircraft that uses all of that will come with another update. There's a few updates to the ice and de-ice systems, which look really good. So you can really see ice effects building on the windshield as you fly through a cloud. It's synchronized with the cloud, so it knows how wet the cloud is, how cold it is, whether the ice builds, and what type of anti-icing system you have on the plane to get rid of the ice. We have a few screenshots on the next one. Which one is the forward button? That one. Yeah. Exact. Oh, storm scope. So interacts with the real weather system. Every little lightning flash you see there is an actual flash that you saw hit the ground, that you would have seen looking out the window. And this way you can plan your path through an upcoming thunderstorm, where it would be safe to go, where the lightning activity is less. And that is an example of how window heat works if you only have like a blower of hot air. And if you leave that running for a few more minutes, then it'll be able to thaw the whole windshield. I think you're...
Yeah, so a lot of this development is focused on third parties. So yes, it'll go into our own default aircraft, like I believe this is our King Air, but we're also opening it up to the developers of your favorite add-ons so that they can bake these features directly into their models as well. That's also a lot of the glass cockpit via plugin stuff we've been working on. That's to make it easier for developers to add their own custom avionics and make it even better. Next up are some of the pro use features. I know that these might not be as interesting to a show like Lelystad, but the cool thing is that a lot of what we learned developing for X-Plane Professional makes us better programmers for the main version, and quite often the features will filter down in time as well. So one thing that is in that category, it's open to everyone, is X-Plane Control Pad on iOS. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad that you want to fly with, now you can set the weather, set the location of the aircraft, fail any data ref that you want within the iPad itself. So no looking around in the menus or anything of that sort. Scalable display support. Scalable display is a tool that professional sims use for warping and blending all of their different projector channels. And what's crazy about it is that it just uses a webcam. So you really kind of tell it what the corners of your curved and warped display are, and it does the rest. That's a huge time savings over having to get out a laser level and doing a bunch of adjustment and tweaking. So it's a big quality of life thing. We've also made our weather presets a little bit better, which should apply to all copies of X-Plane. So less rain under light clouds, for instance. That was a big bug that annoyed me. And the ability to run the sim without all the default aircraft. So if you have aircraft that you never fly, that are still default, that you just want to get rid of to free up some hard drive space, that should now be possible for you as well. As far as some other developments that we've been up to, if you haven't been to xplane.com recently, you'll see that there is a brand new look and feel there to match our new branding. It's really slick. We're a big fan of it. So you should go check that out. Our Airbus A330 is now on the mobile app. So all of our subscribers or people who want to buy just that aircraft can now take that around our world, including in massive multiplayer. So that's pretty exciting. We have an official Discord server that's growing quite fast, which is a lot of fun. If you aren't a member yet, the link to join is on the next slide. We'd love to have you. It's always a really good discussion there. A few weeks ago, we announced our X-Plane store, which is in active development. Our plan is to release it in Q3 of this year. It will be an in-game marketplace where you can buy all of your favorite add-on aircrafts and have it both installed and unlocked from a DRM perspective in a single click. It's really exciting and should really remove a lot of the friction involved in adding things to X-Plane. The reason that we decided to announce it so early is that we want everyone to have the time to make new products for launching on our store and to also collect feedback from the existing third parties as well. So that's kind of in the future, but we're really excited about it. And lastly, we will be at Sun and Fun and FS Expo this year. Sun and Fun is in the Flight Experience Center or something. The show there is kind of starting a new push towards having more sims present. So I think that'll be a really exciting opportunity. And of course, FS Expo in Las Vegas. That's going to be a really big one. So I think that's all we've got. Oh, and this is what xplane.com looks like. And this was our booth last year in Houston. And I think it'll be even bigger in Vegas. All right.
There we are. Thank you very much. So yeah, we do have some time for some questions. So if you have questions for Thompson or Philip from Explain, please put your hands up and we'll try and get to you. Gentleman here.
Yeah, right now we don't have any VR features on the very next up. We're looking at some ways to make that a little bit nicer to use, but we don't have a really internal consensus on what the next push will be.
Fabulous. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the details on that. I know that that's one of... You do?
And on the most basic level, in order to... yeah, sorry, thank you. I get two of my, I can talk in stereo. So on the most basic level, for this to work really well, your engine needs to support motion vectors, so that you know, okay, in the next frame, this bit is going to be here, so that you can already like pre-compute where it's going to be in the next frame. And Explain right now doesn't do this, but as a part of the restructuring that started with the modern collector that we had on the slide, Sydney and Ben are going through the engine to make this possible. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to start like FSR or something like that before you have motion vectors.
So yes and no, it's not just around the corner, but our team is looking at ways to modernize that.
Any other questions? Can't see this right. Yes.
Yeah, that's not something that we're working on internally right now.
So the question...
yeah, the question was about shared cockpit plans for X-Plane. So that's not something we're working on internally. I think that the shared flight guys have been making a lot of progress for that on their side, but it's not one of our next initiatives, no.
Fabulous. We have time for one more question. Yes. So the question was on development of VR?
Yeah, so for the most part, we don't have any headliner VR features in the pipeline. We're still working on finding some consensus on what would be the most valuable next step for us. So yeah, that's where we're at on that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Thompson.
Yeah,
thank you, Philip.
Thanks for having us.
So you will find them at the Explain booth area in the other room.
Yep.
But yeah, if you have any other questions, please go see them.
Yeah, and you can stop by and try 12.1. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.